My family kicked me out on my birthday for refusing to pay my brother's $100,000 debt, so I walked away and destroyed their reputation with one email. "Happy birthday, Liam," my mom started, her voice all cheerful and fake, even though an hour ago she tried to guilt-trip me about not helping pay off John's car loan. I'm sitting at the end of the dining table, staring at a slice of store-bought cake with a crooked 30 candle that's dripping wax everywhere. Dad's slouched across from me, one arm draped over his chair, clutching a beer in the other hand. My brother John, who's 28 and apparently allergic to working, is glued to his phone, texting with one hand and scrolling with the other on the latest iPhone, which I bought, by the way. I clear my throat, my heart racing as I try to stay cool. "We need to talk about the money," I say. Dad grunts, Mom blinks, and John doesn't even bother looking up. "I can't keep covering everything," I admit. "I'm trying to build a future, you know? I've been paying the mortgage, covering utilities, buying groceries. I even bailed John out last year for his second DUI fine. I need to cut back." John finally glances up. "You act like it's charity," he snorts. I stare back. "It is." He chuckles. "Wow, okay then." Dad leans forward, looking like I've just insulted the Pope or something. "Then start with your brother's six-figure debt. That's the real problem, isn't it?" Mom shoots him a sideways glance, probably wishing he hadn't said that out loud. John freezes. "I'm not paying that," I say quietly. "That's not my responsibility." The room goes icy. No one moves. Dad leans back, his face twisted in a scowl. Mom pipes up, "Guess we know where you stand." When I got back from work the next day, all my stuff, clothes, books, tools, and the laptop I used for freelancing, was neatly stacked on the porch. The locks were changed, and they're gone. It was a note pinned to the door that read, "Consider what you've done." That's all it said. I stood there for a while, just staring at Mom's handwriting. So neat and precise. I didn't knock or yell or cry. Instead, I took a deep breath, grabbed my stuff, and walked away. The next morning, I sent the message that changed everything. To understand how I ended up evicted on my birthday, with a note that felt like a slap. You need to rewind 10 years. I was 20 when John totaled his first car. The whole thing was a drunken mess. Mom cried, Dad yelled, and me, the golden oldest son with a stable job and a clean record, paid the tow fee and lent John $3,000 for repairs, which he never paid back. It was supposed to be a one-time thing, but it set a precedent. When John flunked out of college, it was somehow my fault for not helping him with his studies. When he lost 3 jobs in a year, I got a lecture about how some people just struggle more. If he overdrafted his account, Mom would call me up with that familiar guilt trip. "Liam, sweetheart, he's your brother. Can't you just help out this once?" And I always did. I paid rent when John got evicted. I paid for his car insurance so he could drive to parties while I hoofed it to work. I bought groceries, covered our parents' late property taxes, and still found a way to pay for night classes to earn my electrical systems certification. Meanwhile, John spent his days in the basement working on music and doing nothing productive. The worst part? He didn't even pretend to be grateful. He acted like I owed it to him. "Liam's doing great," he'd say, waving his hand like I was just some endless cash machine. "He's got it. That's what big brothers are for." And my parents totally bought it. I could have moved out, but every time I brought it up, Mom would get all teary-eyed and say, "This house only feels like home with you in it." Dad would chime in with, "Don't be so dramatic," and remind me that I only paid a portion of the costs, like the phone plan, which wasn't enough. What about John? He'd smirk and say, "Why leave when you've got it so good?" Yeah, sure, I had it real nice, working 60-hour weeks and barely seeing daylight while my brother borrowed money to buy new headphones, skipping lunch to save cash while Dad used my paycheck to fix the air conditioner and told me to be thankful I didn't have to deal with a landlord. It all came to a head 2 months before my birthday. I got home from a 14-hour shift to find John setting up for a party. My gaming PC, which I'd built bit by bit over 5 years, was out in the living room, hooked up to his sound system. His friends were crashed on the couch, beer bottles everywhere, and my keyboard was sticky. I didn't yell. I just unplugged everything and took it back to my room. The next day, Mom gave me a lecture about how I embarrassed John. "His friends saw you storming around like a maniac," she said, her tone acidic. "They were using my stuff," I pointed out. "This isn't just your house," she snapped back. That word shared felt like a punch. Shared, like the mortgage I paid, the groceries I bought, and the electricity. So, there I was, checking my account one night and noticing how close I was to finally saving up enough to leave for good. Just a few more months, and I'd be set. But then, John came up with this big idea about trading cryptocurrency. He decided to throw in $25,000 from his school loans, money he never planned on paying back, and, surprise, lost it all in 2 weeks. He blamed everyone but himself, the app, the market, even his friends. Then he casually asked me to loan him 10 grand like he was just asking for a ride somewhere. For once, I laughed it off and said no. Suddenly, I was the bad guy. I wasn't the reliable one anymore. Now I was selfish, elitist, and thought I was better than everyone else. Dad even questioned me after dinner, suggesting I was getting too proud just 'cause I had some money saved up. I told him I wasn't better, just tired. The next day, John went on Twitter, thinking I wouldn't see it, and posted something about how some people stop giving once they can't control you. It got 300 likes, and I stayed quiet. My birthday came around, and I foolishly hoped for a peaceful dinner, maybe a small cake, no drama. Instead, I walked into an ambush. Dad stared at me, waiting for me to bring up money. John joked about my supposed trust fund, which doesn't exist, and Mom was all smiles trying to keep the peace. Everything blew up when I finally said, "I can't keep paying for everything." That's when Dad said I should just start with John's massive debt, as if it was expected of me. When I said no, they didn't argue, they just kicked me out. Big mistake. They forgot who taught me to hold my tongue and keep my cool. This time, I had a plan. I didn't respond, just packed my stuff, threw it in my old Toyota, and found a cheap motel. One where everything smelled like cigarettes and the vending machine ate your money. I thought long and hard, then scheduled to send a bombshell email. Over the years, I learned to document everything, every shady Venmo request, every time I helped out or got guilt-tripped. I even wrote a letter months ago detailing all the stuff that went down, like how I paid off a second mortgage secretly because the bank called me, or how John tried to scam a loan in my name. My parents told me not to press charges, saying family sticks together. Well, I was stuck until I wasn't. So, after getting kicked out, I sent that letter to everyone, our whole family, even their church group, and attached all the receipts, screenshots, and bank records. In no time, it blew up. By lunch, I had 26 missed calls from a mom and 8 from Dad. John didn't call. He just texted that I didn't have to do it, which was pretty cold. I didn't reply. At 12:37 p.m., Aunt Sylvia, who I hadn't seen in forever, texted me saying she always knew they were using me and was proud. Then all hell broke loose. Turns out my parents cared more about their reputation as the perfect family than I realized. People started asking the tough questions. Why was I paying all the bills while John partied? Why did the note they left me look like something out of a Lifetime movie? And why was I living in the basement like a tenant when I actually footed the bill for everything? Dad tried to spin it, saying they gave me structure and that it was agreed upon. Bad move. So I snapped a recording the night they booted me out. I'd stashed my phone in my jacket pocket before dinner, so I caught everything loud and clear. Dad kicked things off by griping about my brother's debts. I was like, no way am I paying that. And boom, Dad tells me to hit the road. Mom chimed in with, think about what you did. There was no way they could twist that story around this time. The real kicker? I reported an identity theft case. Let it slide the first time, but no more of that. When the cops rolled up to grill John about some fake loan, things got crazy. One of the neighbors captured it all on video. Angry voices, a door slam, and John going off about how he needed a break. Someone, maybe my mom, shouted, "We told you not to make this worse." That clip spread like wildfire on the local Facebook group. Just like that, my family turned into the hot topic. Suddenly, the ones everyone was talking about. I missed the whole show because I was busy moving into my new downtown pad, a cozy little one-bedroom above a flower shop with sunshine pouring in every morning. The kitchen didn't reek of old arguments. I used money I should have saved ages ago to pay the deposit. That night, I sat on my couch without a TV, just my laptop and some takeout, watching the chaos unfold from afar. Calls from my family flooded in, ignoring them like a boss. When I didn't pick up, my mom showed up at work, teary-eyed and holding a Tupperware of my favorite dish, as if that would magically fix things. I met her outside, and before she could start, I cut her off. "I'm not coming back," I said, calm and unbothered. "Liam, you're tearing this family apart," she sighed. I couldn't help but laugh. "Nah, I just stopped holding it together." She looked like I'd slapped her, but for the first time, I didn't feel bad about it. That was the moment everything changed. I saw them not just as my parents or a struggling brother, but as people living with the consequences of their choices. Crazy how the quiet can be louder than all the shouting. No more waking up to Jay's music shaking the walls, or Dad's polo shirt tantrums, or tiptoeing around Mom's moods. I could finally breathe, make coffee without checking if the milk's gone, leave my wallet out without worrying. Nobody bugging me for money or explanations, no manipulative texts. The silence was weird at first, expecting John to show up unannounced, shoes on my couch, begging for help, but they never came. The calls dwindled eventually. Mom's voicemails full of guilt. "Liam, this isn't you. You're the strong one. Don't let pride break us," she'd say. Dad texted once, "You should be proud of yourself." I didn't reply. A few weeks later, I got a letter from John, short and blaming me for everything falling apart. "Hope it was worth it," he wrote. No apologies, just blame. That said it all. I dove into rebuilding my life, joined a coding boot camp I'd been dreaming about but put on hold, picked up freelance work, started saving for the future I wanted. Met real friends who cared about me, not my bank account. Took up climbing again, a reminder of moving on my terms. Therapy helped, too. Turns out, being the family fixers leaves scars. My therapist called it parentification, being forced into grown-up duties as a kid. She assured me I wasn't selfish, just exhausted. Meanwhile, back at the family house, they crumbled. Mom had to work again and hated it. After a decade of playing house with my cash, Dad hit the bottle harder, even fought with a neighbor asking about me. John finally got a gig at a gas station, lasted 6 days before blaming the boss as usual. Extended family pulled back after seeing the truth. The reality didn't add up to the family myth they'd been selling. So let me share this little story with you. I used to be part of this happy little family that was anything but happy. For the first time ever, I stopped trying to fix things. I skipped Thanksgiving and joined a friend's family instead. They joked around the table. No one was tiptoeing around. I brought some pies, and they treated me like one of their own. They actually meant it. At Christmas, I got a card from my godmother. Inside was a short note saying, "You deserved better, and you finally claimed it. I'm proud of you." That hit me hard. I cried, but not out of sadness. It was because, for the first time, I felt truly understood. You know, when you finally set fire to your old life, nothing happens. There's no dramatic explosion or last-minute makeup scenes. Just quiet. And honestly, that silence is the most beautiful sound ever. For the first time in 30 years, my phone was silent. No guilt-tripping texts, no pleas for money, no urgent calls about John losing his license or Dad needing tax help. No more moms sobbing because we didn't feel like a family anymore. They thought I'd come back, filled with guilt and loneliness. But you know what? I felt free. I could breathe and stand in my own space, my own place that I paid for and took care of. No one was stealing my food or taking my keys. I'd carried my family on my shoulders for so long, I'd forgotten how to walk tall, to live for myself. They used to call me the family's backbone. Nope, I was the fuse. And now that I'm gone, their own fire is just going to burn them. A couple of months later, I bumped into John at a gas station. He was working there, looking like a tired version of himself. He smirked and said, "Liam, didn't expect to see you here." I just nodded. He leaned in and said, "You really messed things up for them, didn't you?" I just blinked and replied, "You mean when I stopped paying your debt?" He just shrugged and said, "They're still dealing with it. You made a mess." I looked him dead in the eyes and said, "You're confusing me cleaning up my life with ruining yours." Then I paid for my gas and left him there, stunned. He still doesn't get it. People like him don't learn until the money's gone and the spotlight fades. But I'm not sticking around for that. Here's what they don't tell you about leaving a messed-up family. It's not the distance that hurts. It's realizing you weren't loved unconditionally. You were just useful. They valued your silence, sacrifices, and bank account. Love without respect isn't love. It's leverage. So when people ask if I'd ever talk to them again, I don't hesitate. No, I finally value myself more than their approval. I used to crave their approval like air. Every good grade, promotion, and paid-off loan was a hope that they'd finally notice me. But they never knew who I really was. Now, I see myself as a guy who paid off 3 mortgages that weren't mine, who stayed up late helping a brother who didn't bother, who kept the lights on in a house that never felt like home. And finally, I'm the guy who said, "No more." I've built a new life, guilt-free and with purpose. Now, I spend my weekends hiking, reading, and even taking up photography, something I've wanted to do for years but couldn't because of other obligations. I'm dating someone who doesn't need saving, who actually cares about my day. Late at night, I sometimes think back to the kid I was, the one who tiptoed through his own house, handing over his paycheck like a ritual. I whisper to that kid, "You got out. You made it. You don't owe them silence anymore. Let them talk. Let them twist the story. Let them call me ungrateful or cold. Because here's the truth. They can't operate without me. Their structure fell apart without me. Without me, the truth came out, loud and clear. And I didn't even have to shout. I just walked away. And sometimes the quietest rebellion is just keeping the door locked.